What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to the NFL Pre-Lock Show. I am not Chop. Starting things up a little. He was having some technical difficulties, so we figured we'd start things up. Make sure you guys weren't waiting too long, but he will be here shortly. I'm TJ Zwarich, joined by the one, the only, the legendary Chris Prince. Beer. Nice to finally do a show with you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I mean, you've been working here a long time. We haven't been able to hook up, so good to get going here, Chop. But old guys and technology, man, it's always an issue. So says he's on his way, so we'll get him here soon. But excited to talk about this game. Excited to do a show here with you for a couple minutes at least, and excited to talk to the people out there.
So it should be. I mean, I was gonna say it should be a fun one, but I don't know about that. We like Houston going into Dallas, and I think it's fun from a Showdown DFS perspective, but I don't know how fun this one's going to be to watch with Dallas missing Dak and a lot of key pieces. What are your thoughts on how this game's going to go?
I mean, likely a blowout. We see the spread up at 7.5. With the Texans on the road here, they get Nico Collins back. Mixon's been incredible. Other side, I mean, no Dak Prescott, obviously a huge hit to this Dallas team, and they weren't good with him. I mean, now you insert Cooper Rush, maybe Trey Lance get some snaps, but I think this one's going to be ugly. But, maybe we try to build as if Dallas can keep this close. I think you're going to see a lot of very similar builds, a lot of captain ownership on Mixon, and I'm not saying we can't do that. We're going to talk about all that throughout the show, but I'm hoping Dallas can keep this close, because if you do build that way tonight, you are going to be very unique, going heavy Dallas, even an even build. I think we get a lot of 4-2s, 5-1s stacked with the Houston side.
Chop, welcome. I'll bounce out of here and kind of let you take over. But what do you think about tonight's Dallas and Houston game? As a Texan yourself, we got the Battle of Texas tonight.
Yeah. Well, first off, my apologies. A little late. This show sometimes intertwines with dinner time in the family.
You were taking a nap. Come on.
Everybody's
not a lie.
Everybody's all of a sudden they're at home at one time, and it gets a little hairy sometimes. But so got that. But yeah, this is not a game I'm particularly looking forward to. Let's just put it like that. I'm a Cowboys fan. We go back way back in the day. You know this, and this has been a disaster of a year. The only thing that can make this a salvageable season is to just flat out lose. Give me the best draft picks possible next year. And now I'm not being sarcastic. It's over with.
That's reality.
It's over. It's not going to happen. Doesn't even bother me now. Let's just get the best draft picks possible. That means we got to lose. They'll lose this game for sure. I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's a blowout. And I think that's how you play. I think the question is, who on Dallas can you trust here? Because this doesn't look good. I put in the survey today, I thought Brandon Aubrey might be the highest scoring Cowboy player tonight. And that's saying something right there. So, and then if you're playing Cooper Rush, you got to worry about, hey, man, how long is the leash before we get to see what Trey Lance? Or are you going to pull the siege method and play the backup quarter? You could do that one too. But then you got to wonder, hey, man, this guy might legit stink so bad in practice, and they've seen it, that they don't even want to embarrass themselves that they gave up a 4th-round pick. So they're just going to keep him under wraps for as long as possible until they can get rid of him somehow, or even just let him walk. That's a possibility too. So, yeah, it's a weird game like that, but, that's where we are right now. That's the NFL. It's next week we'll be sitting here talking about an exceptional game. I think it's the Chargers-Ravens or something like that. So, well, it's not going to be this week though, but I don't know. What were your thoughts on it? Did you have anything that you had that, generally speaking?
I mean, obviously the captains, Texan side, Mixon's going to be very heavily owned in that captain spot, and for good reason. I mean, he's just getting such a big workload. It's a good matchup. If they're playing from ahead, he should see another game of 20, 25 touches so they could really control this thing on the ground. So it's really hard to get away from Mixon at captain, but with that ownership, we certainly want to look elsewhere. And, even on his own team, Collins is back tonight. Stroud a much better quarterback with Nico in the lineup. I think Tank Dell's intriguing. A lot of people going to shy away from him here, but I was talking with TJ, and some of my builds are going to be balanced and going more heavy Dallas just because of the ownership. Everyone's going to have the same structure. I'm not saying don't use Mixon in the captain. I will have those lineups as well. And there's ways you can get different with that. But is there any chance of Dallas keeping this even remotely close where a 3-3, even a 4-2 Dallas, if Mixon does all the damage, maybe we get that garbage time? Guys like Tolbert, Flournoy is out here saying he's going to start tonight. So any credence to that, Chop? Are you doing that at all? Or are you just going with the onslaught here of the Texans?
It's an onslaught. The only way they keep it close, like I feel like the only way is the defense shows up. Micah's back and healthy. You know, he's been out for most of the year. They still don't have several other guys on that are going to be active tonight either. But that's the only way is the defense kind of steps up, because the Texans have shown they've kind of regressed. Well, not kind of. They have regressed offensively. Stroud does not look the same. It's amazing. I say this all the time, and, you know, a lot of people kind of gloss over it. Like, you can never judge these guys. Like, when they first get into the league, who has good coordinators and coaches? Who has bad ones? You know, the guy could be an undercover gem, and you don't know it because he's been brutally torn apart by his coaches here, man, with bad schemes and bad system. Well, Stroud was in a great one last year. Bobby Slowick has taken a step back this year, and so has Stroud, and it's not a coincidence, you know, like, so that's the only way. The Texans offense really is this poor, bad play calling, and Dallas defense shows up, and that keeps it close. And in which case, we're talking about the Dallas defense and not the Dallas offense. So we're still in a bad shape as far as those guys are concerned. So I don't know. My question here to you, and I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago with somebody, man, I am genuinely shocked at how good Joe Mixon looks coming to the Texans. That last year in Cincinnati, I thought, oh, running back wall, he's cooked, man. He's not cooked. Like, he's looked really good, right?
Oh, he's looked fantastic. I mean, he's been one of the best, most dependable running backs in the league. And I was surprised as well. I was always a Joe Mixon fan, but we've heard over the years, running backs changing teams. It never ends well. We got guys kind of smashing that idea this year, Chop. Barkley and Mixon have both been incredible this season. So it's just tough to trust the volume. You know, there's not many backs getting the volume that he is getting. In fact, I don't think there's any running backs right now seeing that volume, even in the passing game. So, and the return of Collins only makes things easier on this rushing attack. The matchup ideal. Dallas has been terrible against the run, but yeah, he certainly surprised me. I know in best ball season and in fantasy draft season, do a lot of season-long leagues still. Wasn't overly excited about Joe Mixon, and certainly a miss on my part. Not afraid to admit that, but he's been great. So a good signing for them, as good as Devin Singletary was for them. They saw it wasn't good enough. Bring this guy in, and unfortunately, the offense as a whole hasn't taken that next step that we thought we'd see out of C.J. Stroud. But he's been absolutely incredible.
Very true. All right, so in a minute here, we're going to get into some Sims and stuff like. Are we doing Sims today, TJ? Will you screen sharing for me with Sims? That's a check. That's a head nod. All right, good. Well, if you're into the Sims and you're looking for something like that, get the RG combo plug. It's a good value out there. You get it's for a limited time. You get the first month of combo access for $79.99. That's $5 more than the NBA Premium. Don't pass up the great value. It is genuinely the busiest time of the sports year. We're coming up on it. We've got college football, the Thanksgiving Day slates in football, NFL for we have like 10 more weeks of NFL. NBA's in full swing. MMA, all this stuff is going on. It really is, man. You get up to Thanksgiving, it's really truly awesome. So this is SimLabs. You can get a piece of this, get in one of those packages for the SimLabs, and we're going to walk you through some stuff right now, show you what we're dealing with. So let's pull this up. Are we or do we have our last update in on that yet? Or what's the timestamp? Oh yeah, 6:06. Yeah, I can't hardly see that, but 6 o'clock will be the last. That'd be the last one. So Let's run that. Let's go. What's our settings tonight? Let's pull up some settings here. Beer, you ever mess around with the SimLabs?
Oh yeah, love the SimLabs.
What's your? I ask everybody on this how they play it on the advanced. Do you even touch the advanced settings stuff, or you're just on this first page here? Large field.
I like to mess around with it based on the game, mix it up a little bit because we love SimLabs. If everyone's in there with the same settings, we're all getting very similar lineups. So I like to mix it up a little bit, just based on the game. So
you get a game like tonight, and what are you doing to the settings here for tonight that might set you apart?
I would move the simulation up a little bit for tonight just to run through games with similar expected blowouts type things. So move the simulator up and maybe move the ownership down slightly. I think we know who's going to be highly owned already. So I don't think we need as much weight on the ownership. We kind of already know that. And then maybe slide the upside a little bit more and see if any guys kind of pop with a little bit more upside. Guys like Tank Dell. I know you were a fan in the survey. Going to go overlooked, not going to be unowned, but we know the upside is there. And those are the guys I love when there's clear ownership. Who are the guys that aren't as highly owned that still can pop off for a huge game? We know Tank Dell can do that. Colin's going to help open some things up. They got to focus on mixing. So, let's see a little bit of upside here as well. See what it says.
All right, let's go ahead and run 150 and see what it's going to spit out to us. Again, you can get this thing to build real quick, about 10, 20 seconds. It'll spit you out 150. And then, even if you're playing just 1, 5, 10 lineups, just go out and put you hit that little ribbon. It saves it for you over there in the saved lineups. And bam, you don't even got to worry about messing with it. But let's see here. The captain, okay, it's giving us a whole lot of Joe Mixon. I get that one it's kind of mixing in. It takes into account the projections too. So this is partly based on that too. And Joe Mixon is definitely jumping off in everybody's projection tonight. Everybody's looking at Joe Mixon and the matchup and what he's done, the volume, like you said, and he's going to be a very popular captain choice tonight. I think that definitely stands true. So I'm going to bypass this. Let's isolate those Nico Collins teams. 16%. They're going to draft. Sims is giving us 16%. I don't mind. Typically, I've kind of learned my lesson on, unless pricing or something, or it's a running quarterback, I kind of want to take a receiver in that captain spot as opposed to a quarterback these days. So I'm looking at that. Let's see some of these lineups. The first one spits out a little Mixon with a very high rating here. Okay, now here's another question point for us, a tipping point for us. Mixon, Stroud, Dallas defense is giving us the floor now. So I've heard this guy. I've heard some positive things about him, but it's taken like 11 weeks for him to get a start. So I don't know. But Dowdle's the one I want to talk about real quick. He's been better. They've been giving him volume. I think he's a fairly talented back. I think the offensive line is better than what. Listen, I think the offensive line is good. Let's call a spade a spade. This is a terrible running scheme from Mike McCarthy. He has no idea what he's doing in the running game. Like, the previous offensive coordinator is in Philly right now. Like, that guy could scheme a running play. And yes, Saquon is good, but Saquon's benefiting from a hell of a run scheme, not Mike McCarthy. So Dowdle, to me, man, if he doesn't get there in the passing game tonight, he's gonna be a big fade for me. So I don't know. How do you feel about Dowdle tonight?
So there's positives and negatives. So the positives are, Cooper Rush likely going to want to check the ball down. We know that he's going to play a bigger role. They've come out and said, let's get him more involved. I think we've seen enough of Ezekiel Elliott, just not the guy that he was. So the positive is, if they're playing from behind, he gets those checkdowns. That does take away the rushing equity from Rico Dowdle. The problem is Houston been very good against pass catching running backs. Second fewest receptions, fifth fewest receiving yards, and the sixth fewest fantasy points. So it doesn't set up well unless we get a ton of those checkdowns, or they do find a way to keep this game competitive. Now we re-enter the rushing equation. Maybe a pairing of Dowdle and the Dallas defense, because I agree with your point on the Dallas defense. If they keep this close, they're going to need some big plays. The good news there, CJ Stroud's been sacked a ton this year. I think it's 34 sacks on the season, has lost six fumbles, 3 lost fumbles. So there are paths where that could be, even if you only use 2 Cowboys, Dowdle and the Cowboys defense, that may keep this game closer, keep that viable. So that's probably the scenario I would use him in. I know it's hard to find guys we're excited about on Dallas. I mean, we all love CeeDee Lamb, but with me or you throwing a CeeDee Lamb, he kind of loses a lot of value, and that's what he's getting tonight with Cooper Rush. So Dowdle paired with the Dallas defense, I think makes some sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Texans offensive line, not particularly great.
No.
Maybe the old man Zimmer can find a way to get Michael Parsons in some good matchups finally. Although, again, there's another lame duck coach that these guys don't want to play for, and he has not put them into the best pass rushing situations this year. But let's answer some questions here real quick because we got a lot going on here. So, I was not taking my nap, guys. I was there's dinner time. There's somebody needed something moved in the living room. I thought
some of these young cats, and I'm not saying everyone in the chat. I'm sure there's plenty in there with families, but some of these young cats, Chop, they don't know yet with the kids and their activities, and it's dinner time, and you were trying to do NBA lineups. There's a lot going on here.
A lot going on. Question for you, Beer. What are your thoughts on? It's a stretch, but Turpin as a captain.
I have a hard time because there's just not enough upside. I get the cheap price point. I get it'll allow you to get bigger name pieces in at the flex, but he would have to take one to the house. Is that in his range of outcomes? Sure. I mean, the guy's electric, but I think that's a little bit too thin. I don't think we need to go there tonight.
Yeah, if I'm playing him, it's only in flex, and if I'm playing him, I probably got a rule in lineup HQ that Dallas defense has to be in there too. Yep. So you get the double header points. As a receiver or as a gadget guy on offense, he's just not going to get there. Like you said, no upside. Although, watch him take a reverse to the house tonight.
He's got upside. It's a matter of does he get enough opportunities to do anything with? They do a good job designing touches for him.
His most likely scenario where he scores some good points is the return game, in which case you want the Dallas defense in there too. So, how chalky is Mixon and captain? Pretty chalky tonight. I think it's pretty centered around maybe 3 guys for Houston that are going to be in the mix for captain. He's one of them. Kickers over defense. Would you take kickers over defense today?
I think I'm more on the defenses tonight. Normally I love kickers. I love Brandon Aubrey. The guy is phenomenal, but that's when they're at full strength. This is a team that stalls out a lot, and this is over the years. I mean, that guy was phenomenal last season because they'd get to the red zone and they'd stall out. Boom, Aubrey's kicking field goals. How successful are they going to be moving the ball? How many touchdowns are they going to have? I mean, their team total very low. So can he get a couple field goals? Yes. My question is, can they move the ball enough to put him in position for those field goals? I think I would rather the defenses. Now let's talk about the Houston defense. 6,200, Chop. And that you're paying a pretty penny for that defense, one of the most expensive on the year. So I think I prefer Dallas. They're not going to have ownership. We talked about the mismatch with the offensive line. Micah Parsons back. I think they can generate some pressure. Stroud under pressure. Turnovers are possible. So I think I'd rather go the Dallas defense. If I'm going kicker, probably Fairbairn. I think they just have more opportunities to score, and if he's going to be about the same ownership as Aubrey, I think that's the way to go. So Dallas D and Fairbairn are the special teams for me.
Yeah, let's see. Who is your favorite captain on FanDuel? Coco wants to know.
I mean, Mixon's the easy answer. Again, the touchdowns just have so much weight over on FanDuel, so it's hard to envision him not finding the end zone in this matchup with Dallas. But away from Mixon, I do like Nico Collins. I think they want to get him back in this lineup, get him going. If it's a contrarian captain, I'm going to say CJ Stroud. And let's look back at yesterday, Chop. We had a very highly favored Detroit Lions team. Any logic would have said, okay, they're going to pound this team. They don't have to do much through the air. Montgomery, Gibbs are the play. It's Jared Goff out here throwing for 400 yards and a couple of receivers with him landing in the winning lineup. So maybe it's Stroud, who, like we said, with Collins in the lineup, the numbers are stark. Without Collins, his numbers go way down. It's been ugly. When Collins is in that lineup, it makes him a better quarterback. So I don't hate CJ Stroud over there. Now that they have the bonuses and things, that that could be a different way to still get exposure to Houston. They put a big number on the board. Maybe Dallas holds Mixon out of the end zone, and it's Stroud and a couple receivers that get you there.
Yeah, I benched Goff for Stroud in season long here this yesterday, so man, not feeling good about that one, but we'll see how Stroud pulls it off. Lip wants to know, he says, question John Michie in captain ? But let's just in general, like even in the flex, what do you think about Michie tonight with Nico coming back?
I'm intrigued. I still think he's going to have a role here, but where does he fit in the pecking order? Obviously behind Collins, behind Dell. Then you get into Schultz, Mechie, Mixon. What kind of roles? Great to see him have a good game. Coming back from what he has dealt with. I'm intrigued. I don't know about in captain. That one, I don't think you need to go there. Just to jam in. Who are we jamming in if we put him in a captain? Basically, are you wanting to spend up on CeeDee Lamb? That's why you're putting Mechie in the captain. I am a fan usually of a cheaper play that can go in there that opens some things up. I just don't know that one's viable. If any of the cheap guys, it is him. So if you want to go that route, I don't see a better option to go cheap at, but I don't know that I'm going to get there tonight.
There was a question in chat about SimLabs. Let me see if I Q Ellis. Okay, if you're asking, can you run Sims on FanDuel in general? Yes, SimLabs is compatible with FanDuel. Like you could run this thing tonight on SimLabs. You can run almost most any slates on FanDuel. Are we gonna run one tonight? Nah. Well, we could, I guess. I don't know, TJ. If you want to run one real quick, we'll be here for about 5 more minutes maybe, and we'll get our Plums play tonight in here. But yeah, you can run this thing on FanDuel, and it's going to spit out the same stuff. Not the same stuff, but same process. So yeah, get you some of that combo package. Get in there, let it build some lineups for you. In this day and age, it's as good as anything. Let's be honest, man. SimLabs is spitting you out some top-notch lineups with very little work if you don't have time to invest into it. Let's see here, medium, large. Let's get you here. Come on. Let's go, TJ. Let's get it for us, brother. Run that sucker, man.
He's working it.
He's working it, man.
I'm guessing.
Wonder if it's going to
guessing we're going to get 50% plus the Mixon at MVP.
I see it already. Let's check out the exposures and see how much it likes Mixon.
I'm saying I'll say 60%. I did not run him on FanDuel. This is just
a lot of Mixon. Wow. Man. You were right there. See, something like that, and I get it. It's making good line, but because of that, I'm probably going to go to Stroud on FanDuel. I mean, maybe it's a Stroud game.
Nico, it's only given us 6%, but ownership likely isn't there at all.
Yeah, on FanDuel, are you much more? Do you feel more comfortable usually taking a quarterback as opposed to his receiver, since we're not being docked in penalty and for salary or anything like that?
Yeah, I like it more on FanDuel again, especially since they've added some of the bonuses. The PPR aspect of DraftKings, takes away on FanDuel, so I think it's a more viable route tonight. So look, I love Mixon again, but if everybody's building with Mixon, you have two choices. You leave a ton of salary on the table. That's one way you can get different and leave a couple thousand out there, or you go a different direction. This team's projected to score a ton of points in this game. We know quarterbacks that have a high projected team total generally bear out very well. So I don't mind going to Stroud here in this one. Pair him with a couple pass catchers, and even if there's room for Mixon, maybe it is just an onslaught, but I think you're going to see a lot of that. So I don't mind Stroud, Collins, or even Dell, like we talked about. Big time upside. Nobody's really going to want to play him in that spot, but we know he can pop off for 25, 30 fantasy points, especially in a matchup like this.
Carolina guy is our FanDuel guy. He loves him some FanDuel. Favorite MVP over there. We kind of talked about it a minute ago. You've got your big guns: Stroud, Mixon, Nico, probably the best ones. Do you have a favorite low-owned flex on FanDuel?
I mean, the Dallas defense is intriguing. Nobody wants to play them. So
Either over there, either one of the defenses, on
Yeah.
FanDuel, nobody's going to want to play a defense.
And like we said earlier, I think a pairing of Dowdle and the Cowboys defense to make some sense. It's probably, as much as I love CeeDee Lamb, they're going to try to get him the ball. I think he'll have a decent game, but you see his receiving props are down under 60 yards. I mean, that's telling you something. So if anything, it's Dowdle with the Cowboys defense, and then you do your thing with the Texans. So Flournoy is a guy I'm intrigued with, more so on DraftKings, just for that $200 price point. Are we buying this guy? Are we not? Tough to say. He says he's starting. That could be on special teams. We don't know. But if he's in that starting lineup, $200 is a pretty good price point. Let's talk Trey Lance here, Chop, because the old siege move. We saw him last week. It was a blowout. So was it okay? We've seen enough of Cooper Rush. Let's see what this guy has. I mean, any credence to playing him tonight? Because I've flirted with it. 6K on DraftKings. Sometimes you end up in that spot, and it's tough to find a guy. But any credence to rolling with Trey Lance tonight?
Boy, that's a tough one, because it's a cheap price tag, and if you're going to get a quarterback, and all of a sudden they give Cooper Rush a couple of drives and say, "Okay, we're going to Lance," and now you got the guy for the rest of the game at that price tag, you would be ecstatic. But what's he going to do with it, even if he got in there? I have my questions. The last preseason game they played, they gave him the full game. The guy threw 5 interceptions, man. Like, he's not good.
I know he's not. Rushing upside, though.
But yes, rushing upside. So 6K. Would you pay 6K right now for a running back that I knew was going to touch the ball a lot? Probably so. So if you think that there's a chance that we've seen enough Cooper Rush, and maybe Mike McCarthy legit trying to do something to salvage his job, which is not even going to happen, but just whatever. I got to get Rush out of there. I'm going to Trey Lance. I think it's a play you could make. So if you're going to make a play like that, you're going to be way different. You don't have to get different at those other spots then. You can be all the chalk you want if that's the play you're going to make. And that's the good thing about something like that. So I think there's merit to it. Like, I would never typically recommend that, but I think there's a very unique situation. So it could go there. Dallas, tight end, Ferguson. Well, he says Schultz also. Schultz is for Houston. You like these tight ends tonight? We haven't even talked about them.
I not a huge Dalton Schultz fan, especially with Nico back. Just very limited upside. You could play the revenge narrative game here with Dalton Schultz coming back to Dallas, but I'm not a huge fan of his. Ferguson I like, but with Cooper Rush, again, how many targets is he going to get? Now, the good news, he's been getting a lot of, low ADOT targets. The issue is, Chop, these teams have been fantastic against tight ends. They've only given up 27 receptions each over the course of this season. So you're talking, 2.7 to 3 receptions a game. Both are top 5 in yards allowed. They do give up touchdowns, though. So a lot of times it's touchdown or bust. Dallas, 6th most touchdowns. Houston, 9th most touchdowns. So if either one, I'd go with Ferguson, playing from behind, low ADOT, little safety blanket for Cooper Rush over Dalton Schultz tonight.
All right. So we got about 25 minutes to lock. It's that time of the night. I don't know if you're familiar with the show and the Fill It in the Plums play of the night. This is our showdown deal. We pick out a guy that we feel the best about tonight. We're feeling it, man. Feeling it in the plums. So I'm going to ask you, Beer. I'm going to give you the floor and let you go first so I don't steal your guy. Who's Beer Makers Fill It in the Plums play of the night for Monday Night Football tonight?
I'm going to go way off the reservation here. And the more we've talked, I'm going to go with the Cowboys defense. Feeling that in the plums. Not a play. I don't want to give Mixon or Collins. Too easy. Nobody's going to play this Dallas defense tonight. We mentioned Stroud. A lot of sacks taken, a lot of turnovers, 6 interceptions, the fumbles. Micah Parsons can be a game wrecker. Defense very tough to predict. So I'm going to go that route. I'm going to throw out the Dallas Cowboys defense, Chop. So if I'm never invited back, I understand why, but we're going off the radar tonight.
No, I like you. You're going very, very, off the radar is good. You got to do that in Showdown, man. You got to do that in Showdown. So I like that. I'm going a little bit more conventional, but there's no way I cannot take my guy. It's my guy, man. My University of Houston guy. I watched him for 3 years, tear it up down here. I love me some Tank Dell. Always going to love him. But tonight, I feel really good about him because, number one, the Dallas defense, they get shredded anywhere you want to shred them, you can. Running, sure. Passing, absolutely. It makes me feel, with Nico back, it makes me feel better about Tank Dell. You know what? The difference between Tank Dell last year and Tank Dell this year, maybe it's the injury. Maybe it's the fact that last year he was in the slot over 70% of the time. This year, because of injuries, they had him out wide over 70% of the time. Maybe, I'm hoping, with Nico back, it pushes him back to the slot where he's best at. You're shaking your head. Tank Dell's not going to.
Matt Shea will be in the slot likely. But the good news for you, Dallas, their biggest struggles have been with perimeter wide receivers. So even if he is on the outside.
Tank's unguardable regardless. But maybe they shift him around a little bit somewhere. He gets a little bit, I'm not asking for a complete reversal and go 70-30, the opposite way. Just give him a few more snaps in the slot. And he's got this rapport with CJ Stroud for sure. So that's my guy. I'm thinking in a lucky world here, he's your leading receiver in this game, and we're going to get him at lower ownership than a couple of these other guys in the receiving course. So Tank Dell's my guy. You like the Dallas defense. Guys, that's going to wrap it up. We appreciate you tuning in. You got about 22 minutes to make any last-minute adjustments to your lineup. Beer, we appreciate you coming on, man. I know you're going to be back on again, limited schedule, but you're going to be back on again. I already see your name penciled in there, right?
Yep, I'll be back. Somebody asked about six-packs earlier. None of this affects any of the six-packs. Those will roll on as always. So appreciate the audience. Some great questions here tonight. Just remember, try to get a little bit different tonight. Them Houston onslaughts are going to be out there everywhere. So Dallas defense. We'll see.
Guys, thanks for the questions. We'll be back on Thursday night for another one. Until then, good luck on those GPPs. For Beer, I was Chop and TJ behind the scenes. We're out of here.